Alrighty, I think we'll get started now. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Job Search and Networking webinar this morning. My name is Nellie Northup, and I am a Nova Scotia Works school liaison who currently works with high school youth grades 9 to 12. I am a career development practitioner, and I'm pleased to share some really important information with you today. Just a friendly reminder to keep your mics on mute, just to assure we don't have any background noise or feedback. We also ask that you keep your videos off. Both of these options can be found at the bottom left-hand side of your screen. This session will be recorded and available publicly, so please keep that in mind if you do wish to ask a question. My lovely coworker Taylor will be handling our chat box today, so if you do have any questions, feel free to type them in there. While we are waiting for others to arrive, feel free, if you choose to, put in the chat box where you are from in the province and what capacity you are joining us today. So for example, are you a youth, a parent, guardian, mentor, etc.? That way I can get an idea of who is on the call today. I will give a few moments for you to provide that information if you choose to do so. We will also have a question period at the end where we can chat about things more openly if necessary. Taylor, do we have anything coming in the chat box?
No, nothing yet.
Okay, well, I think we'll move along then. So for job searching, it requires a great deal of perseverance and ingenuity. Up to about 80% of jobs are not posted anywhere, which is a large number, and this means that as a job hunter, you have to explore many options. But don't let that number scare you. There are so many ways to look for employment. I'd love to hear from you what ways you can think of to look for work. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please feel free to put them in the chat box now. Do we have anything coming in, Taylor?
Nope, no answers in the chat box just yet.
Okay, well, that's all right. So there are a variety of different paths you can take when trying to secure employment. So these are just a few examples, but you can respond to advertised positions. You can identify organizations you may want to work for and contact them directly. Or you can be referred to an employer through someone else. So we're going to talk about these examples in more detail a little later on in the presentation, but these are just some of the basics to start with. So there's lots of steps to finding your first job, and sometimes I find it can be helpful to actually kind of lay them out this way. So we're going to go over the first 10 steps to finding your first job. So the first one would be to gather the necessary information. So make sure you know what type of job you are looking for. Is it part-time or full-time? Are you only available evenings and weekends? Do you need a car to get to work? Sometimes it can be helpful to make a list of all the places in your area that you are interested in working at, or that you know have hired youth in the past. So for example, fast food restaurants, grocery stores, local farm markets, that type of thing. So once you've done that, you should then put together a resume. So a good resume is going to set you apart from your competition. If you want more in-depth information on how to build a resume, you can take a look at Employment Solutions Society Facebook page, where we have a recording from a previous resume building webinar. If you're having trouble finding that, or you would like me to send you the link directly, I will be providing my email address at the end, so you can reach out about that, and I'll certainly send you the link. So then you should plan your outfit. So you should have an outfit in mind for if and when you get an interview. You don't need to wear a suit or like a fancy dress. Just make sure you are dressed professionally and without any distracting patterns. If you don't have pants other than jeans, just wear the darkest pair you own that is free from rips and tears. It is also important to dress professionally when simply dropping off resumes. You may never get a chance to speak to the manager, but keep in mind that the worker you are handing your resume to may be asked by their manager how you treated them, what you said, and how you appeared in terms of your dress. So wearing professional clothes shows you care and have put some thought into this process. So next, you should develop a job search strategy. So it can be really helpful to have a plan. This goes back to maybe making a list of the potential employers you can reach out to. Job searching can feel overwhelming at times, so having a plan and strategy will make you feel more in control of the situation. Next, you should practice your pitch. So practice some of those typical interview questions, such as, tell me about yourself, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, tell me about a time when you were faced with a challenge and how did you overcome it. So those are all some examples of some of those basic interview questions. While these questions are most commonly asked at an interview, sometimes the employer may decide to ask you these questions when you are dropping off a resume. It's important to be prepared. It's hard to think of those answers on the spot, so it's better to have a planned answer going into the conversation. It will also make you feel more confident and overall just more prepared. Ask for help. It's okay to have questions and feel like you might need some help. This is likely all new to you, and as I have said before, it can sometimes be stressful. So ask other adults who may have more job experience, so parents, mentors, neighbors. You can also ask Nova Scotia Work staff like myself, or find webinars on the internet like this one. There's a lot of great information out there, and it is okay to ask for help. So next, you should actually apply and interview for job opportunities. Hopefully, this is going to actually lead to interviews. You will be much more prepared for this step if you have followed the previous steps. Be prepared for competition and rejection. You will most likely get a lot of no's before you get a yes. Try not to take it personally. If you have a good resume, you dressed professionally, and had practiced your interview questions, it likely has nothing to do with you. There is a lot of competition out there, and sometimes it can be hard to get yourself noticed. Don't let it get you down. This is just a part of job searching. A little later on, we are going to discuss some other factors that can play into this competition and rejection as well. Complete follow-up and thank you notes. So it's very important that you follow up with employers. While it may feel like a lifetime to you that you haven't heard back from them, to them, they may have just been very busy and haven't gotten to looking through the pile of applications that they have. Make sure not to reach out too often though. You don't want to appear like you are bothering them. So for example, if the employer says that you will hear from them by Friday and you haven't, wait until Tuesday to reach out. It's also important that after having an interview, you send a thank you note. This can be done through email. So this should thank them for their time and that you look forward to hearing from them. This shows you appreciate that you have taken the time, that they have taken the time to get to know you, and it will likely make you stand out from all the other applicants because not everybody will do this. And last but not least, get and accept the job offer and make a plan to shine. So once you have accepted the job offer, now is when you can make a plan for how to be successful in that job. Much of this confidence will come from your training, but keep in mind now is not the time to slack off. You still need to prove yourself. So don't let all the preparation and planning you have done up until this point go to waste. So there are many job search websites to look for work. These are just a few of our favorites. So the first would be the Job Bank. Next, we have My Blueprint. So this is a resource that is available to all Nova Scotia students. There are a ton of wonderful resources on this website, and job search is just one of them. If you have never used it before, you can log into your GNESPES account, and on the launch page, you will see a blue icon for My Blueprint. If you click on that icon, it'll take you directly to My Blueprint, and you can look through job search there. Another very popular one is Indeed. And many people may not think of Kijiji, but it is actually a great place to look, especially for some of those odd jobs. So, for example, things that are not permanent, but more temporary, like helping somebody do some yard work or helping someone move. But you can also occasionally find permanent opportunities there as well. And Facebook and social media. So social media is a great place to look for work. Employers are increasingly using it because it is free, and they can more easily get information out to their target audiences. That's why it's a good idea to follow businesses that you may be interested in working for. They may post only on their social media accounts when they're looking for work. And our Nova Scotia Works Centre websites. So there's Nova Scotia Work Centres across the province, and each will have a different website, and they very often will post job postings to their social media accounts and their website specifically. It's a great place to look because sometimes employers reach out to us directly to post ads that may not be going up elsewhere. Okay, so some online job search suggestions. So search individual company websites. Sometimes you can find job postings directly on company websites that are hard to track down in other places. Seek out companies you may want to work for and look in depth on their websites. Keep an eye out for a careers tab. This is often where you can find job postings. You should have an appropriate email address. It is really important to keep it simple, so something like first name, last name at hotmail.com or gmail.com. Not only is this the most professional option, but it is also less likely to end up in the employer's spam or junk mail. Plus, it is easier for them to find you in their inbox. You don't want your email address to be the reason you didn't get the job. And additionally, make sure you have a voicemail set up that is appropriate. Once you start submitting resumes, it is very important that you have a voicemail set up on the phone number you have provided to the employer. It should be something simple, such as, "Hello, you have reached Sarah Smith. I am unable to take your call right now. Please leave your name and number, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you." Silly or inappropriate voicemails will not impress employers. If you want to provide a home phone number, this is perfectly fine. Just make sure your name is on the voicemail. So if an employer calls and the only names on the voicemail are your parents or guardians, the employer may think they have the wrong number. Just make sure you think of these things and have them set up prior to submitting resumes. You can create online accounts with various sites and companies. Lots of job search websites will allow you to create an account and actually upload your resume for easy applying kind of over and over again. And some company websites allow you to do this as well. It can be a great time saver, but also remember that it's also good to tailor your resume each time to fit different jobs. So there may be certain jobs where you don't need to do that for. It could be various cashiers positions in different stores. But for things that are a little bit different, you should keep in mind that you should be tailoring your resume to fit that job. So if possible, use the same username and password for your online accounts. So this is just a tip that will make it easier to get into those accounts when necessary. Just remember to use a different login address or information for things such as online banking, because you don't want people to be able to hack your more sensitive accounts. Many job search websites have the option to turn on notifications for particular job postings. So for example, you can specify that you want notifications for part-time jobs in Bridgewater, for example. This can be a great way to assure you don't miss anything. You can also post online that you are looking for work. Some people will create a Kijiji ad for this. Just remember that this shouldn't replace you actively looking in all the ways we have already discussed today. You want to make sure you are trying lots of different approaches. And lastly, keep track of your job search using a record sheet. So a record sheet is an excellent way to remember everything you have applied for and when you did it. It can get very overwhelming trying to remember what you have done up until this point, and it will also give you a timeline on when you should follow up with employers based on the date you submitted your application. So you should use a job search log to keep a record of every resume you submit to an employer. This should include information about the date it was sent, who you sent it to, and what position you applied for. So here is an example of a job search record, what it could look like. After today's webinar is over, I will be sending you a copy of this job search record so you can use it and keep it as a resource. Okay, so it's important that you be aware of the hidden job market. So what this means is that a lot of jobs are available but aren't posted anywhere. So about 60 to 80% of jobs are not posted anywhere. This is because advertising is expensive and time consuming for employers. And unfortunately, it doesn't always have the best results. So how do you access this hidden job market? Make networking a habit. We are going to chat about networking in more depth in a few minutes, but you should reach out to employers directly asking if they are hiring. We often refer to this as cold calls, and it can go a long way. And last but not least, use your social networks. As mentioned previously, employers are using social media more and more, and you can use it to your advantage. Keep an eye out for job postings, look for Facebook groups about job searching in your area, and like local companies' pages. These are all excellent ways to access the hidden job market. So some other job search tips include understanding the employer's perspective. It will help your attempts at gaining employment if you can put yourself in the employer's shoes. Think to yourself, what would they be looking for? What would they value? What would make their life easier? This goes back to having a simple, easy to read and find email address. It might not seem like a lot, but to a busy employer, they value not needing to dig for your application in their inbox. Being considerate of and understanding the employer's perspective can make you stand out among other applicants. You should treat everyone you know and everyone you meet as a networking contact. You never know who can help you get a job or who could share some unfavorable information about you to an employer. Be careful of what you say to whom, and remember that every person you meet adds to your network. Keep up with emerging trends in the labor market. The labor market is a fancy way of saying the availability of employment. An emerging trend could be that a new company is opening in your area, meaning there will be lots of new jobs. Try to keep up on local news and ask adults in your life what opportunities there may be in their field. You can also research labor market information. So you can use explorecareers.novascotia.ca to find out a ton of information about particular fields that you may be interested in. Think about volunteering or job shadowing. Oftentimes, volunteering or job shadowing can lead to employment. The company or organization may like what they see and offer you a job, or it can be just another asset to list on your resume that employers highly value. Choose appropriate references. Make sure when asking someone to be your reference, you also ask if they will be a good reference for you. No one likes to have to give a poor reference to an employer, and this question will give the opportunity to have that conversation with you ahead of time. You want to make sure you have references available that will speak to your abilities and why the employer should hire you. And stay positive. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes job searching can be discouraging. This is unfortunately just the reality of job searching in certain occasions. Positivity will come across in your interactions with employers, and it is an invaluable skill to offer a workplace. No one wants to be around someone who is constantly focusing on the negative. So keep your head up and believe that you will land a job. So on that note, we're going to talk about 10 ways to strengthen your job search resilience. So the first one would be active. Being an active participant in your job search builds confidence and allows you to take charge. Get out there and network. Don't spend your days behind a computer launching resumes into the abyss. Feeling in charge of your career path builds resiliency and can help propel you past disappointment. Positivity. Challenge negative thinking. Take time each day to find something to be thankful for. And connection. Take one action each day to build a new relationship or strengthen an existing one. So for example, that could be family, friends, networking, or reaching out to your references. Experimenting. Each day, do one new or unfamiliar thing. Continuous learning is a characteristic employers seek out. Maybe ask yourself, have I learned something new today? Priorities. Each morning, identify your 3 most important goals for the day. Organization and planning increase your ability to bounce back. It's not personal. The majority of rejections you will face as a job seeker will have very little, if anything, to do with what you bring to the table. This realization can be frustrating, but the shift in perspective can also be incredibly reassuring. Feedback. Actively seeking out feedback arms you with knowledge and confidence and makes overcoming rejection a little bit easier. So embrace your failures and setbacks and turn them into something constructive. Gratitude, visit, or letter. Write a letter or email of gratitude to someone who has been especially kind to you, but may have never been properly thanked. Start a journal or notebook to log your good things. Write down three things that went well each day and their causes. Provide an explanation for each good thing. And identify signature strengths. Note your 5 highest strengths. Use them more often during the week. This is a great way to remind yourself of all of the wonderful things that you bring to the table. Okay, so now we're going to watch a short video on job search tips.
Job search tips for young adults. When the time comes to find a job as a high school or college student, be sure to utilize your network. Ask your friends if their employers are hiring. Check in with family friends who work in industries of interest. Join local community Facebook groups and advertise your landscaping or babysitting services. Don't be afraid to ask your favorite stores or restaurants if they're hiring. Prepare a simple resume in advance, listing any relevant experience, even if it was unpaid. Note the skills you utilized in that sport, community service activity, or even babysitting your little brother. List academic or extracurricular achievements, as well as contact information for references. Though many entry-level jobs won't require a formal resume, it's a good idea to get your names, dates, and selling points organized in advance. Similarly, though you may not always have a sit-down interview, you'll at least have a conversation with the hiring manager. So prepare for common interview questions like, tell me about yourself. Why do you want this job? What's your schedule like? And why should we hire you? When you meet with a potential employer, be sure to put your best self forward. Dress up a little. You don't need to wear a suit, but make sure it's an outfit your grandma would approve of. Be on time, stand up straight, shake hands, and make eye contact with the person you're meeting with. Turn off your phone before entering the workplace to give the employer your full attention, and then turn your phone back on to respond to any texts, emails, or voicemails in a prompt manner. Finally, always ask about next steps and be sure to get contact information so you can follow up with a thank you note, thanking the employer for their time and reiterating your excitement about the job.
Okay, so I hope that video summed up most of what we were chatting about this morning about job search. Now we're going to move on to networking though. So we have used the term networking often throughout this webinar already, but what does it actually mean? So we're going to spend the rest of the time together discussing the ins and outs of networking and why it is so important. Professional networking is an essential part of the job search process. It is about making connections with people and building relationships that can help lead to jobs or other work-related opportunities. Networking should be practiced on a continuous basis. It is important to network with as many people as you can to let them know you are looking for work and what skills and abilities you have to offer an employer. So I'd like you to take a look at this visual. The way most people look for work is to start with job postings, then they reach out to employment or placement agencies, then they go through word of mouth, and if none of those things work, they contact employers directly. As you can see, employers typically look for applicants in the exact opposite way. So they start with their internal network, so people who already work within the company, maybe referrals from current workers. Then they move to external networks, so they open up their network a little bit more. Then they go to employment or placement agencies, and if that isn't successful, then they post ads. So as you can see, this creates a problem for both job seekers and the employers. As mentioned previously, up to 80% of jobs are not advertised anywhere. When job seekers and employers are going about things in a different way, it can lead to positions taking longer to be filled. Now that you know about the hidden job market, you have some insider tips that most people are unaware of. You can build your network, identify companies you want to work for, and contact them directly. You can try to get informational interviews where you reach out to employers with specific questions about their company and field. You can submit resumes even without a posting, check back periodically, and show enthusiasm throughout the process. Networking is a huge part of the solution to the problem that job seekers face. So why should you network? Well, people do business primarily with people they know, like, and trust. Simply submitting a resume and cover letter is often too impersonal to convince employers to hire you. When an employer posts a job ad, they will get a huge amount of applicants. If you are among them, this means you have a lot of competition. If you have networked, you can become a recommended member of a much smaller pool, meaning that you will be more likely to get the job. So think of networking like this image. The more people you interact with, the bigger your network is. It can also give you access to people those people interact with, and so on. For example, I was able to land one of my previous jobs because my friend's older brother had worked there and put in a good word for me with the manager. He wasn't in my immediate network, but I was still able to use his connections because I was friends with his sister and I directly reached out to him. I made that networking experience happen, and you can too. So, what networking strategies are you currently aware of? If you have something in mind, feel free to pop it in the chat box now.
Nothing just yet, Nellie.
Okay, that's all right. So besides some of the things that we've already talked about, one of the good places to network is at job fairs. So these are organized events where employers set up booths and job seekers can walk around, ask questions, drop off resumes, etc. These are excellent places to make some connections and make the employer aware of you. So even if you don't have a job, even if they don't have a job available for you right now, if you make an impression, they will keep you in mind for future hiring. Another example would be friends who are already employed. So you can ask them to see if their company is hiring. If they put in a good word for you, the employer is more likely to hire you because they know who suggested you and they've already hired that person. Another one would be friends' parents or guardians. So ask them about their work. See if it's something you might be interested in. This will be more likely, they will be more likely to recommend you if you have shown an interest in their field. So networking goes a long way and is often the reason people get their first job. Don't be afraid to get yourself out there and make connections. It will have so many long-term benefits for you. As I have previously mentioned, I work for an organization called Nova Scotia Works. There are offices all over the province who help people find and maintain employment. If you have a youth or yourself who is interested in receiving assistance from one of our Nova Scotia Works staff, follow the link to find a center closest to you. It should also be noted that youth are able to be serviced who are within 3 months of graduation from high school or who have impending plans to drop out of the high school system. This is, of course, not a situation that we hope for, but certainly want people to be aware of their options. Additionally, if your school is lucky enough to have a school liaison, you are certainly able to reach out to them for assistance with all aspects of job search. So that's resumes, cover letters, interview skills, etc., and career decision making. So that brings us to the end of this webinar on job search and networking. After this session, you will receive the job search record, as well as a feedback form to the email you registered with. We kindly ask that you take a few minutes to fill out this form and send it back, as it will greatly help us in developing future webinars. Also keep an eye out for posters on our upcoming webinars, because we would love to have you. I will now allow a few moments if anyone would like to send a question through the chat box for us to discuss openly. I should also note that if you have any questions that you would like to discuss privately or you think of at a later time, feel free to send an email to the email address on the screen, nnorthup@empsolutions.ca.
there's no questions as of now.
Okay. Thank you, Taylor.
No problem.
Okay, so if there aren't any questions, I'd like to thank you all for attending this webinar, and I hope to see you at our later sessions. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.